I gave my sister a kidney, only to discover she sold it for cash. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I stared at the bank statement on Mia's kitchen counter and felt my scar ache like it had nerves of its own. There, between groceries and utility payments, sat a single wire transfer labeled only as consulting fee for $48,000. The date was 3 weeks after our surgery, the same week I'd been learning how to get out of bed without feeling like my abdomen was splitting open. The number blurred, but the words, wire transfer, 48,000, burned themselves into my brain. No way, I whispered, though there was no one to hear me. Mia was out, some self-care day, she'd said cheerfully while tossing me the spare key so I could feed her cat. I'd come here thinking I'd just clean the litter box and maybe nap on her couch before my night shift at the lab. Instead, I was standing in the middle of her spotless condo, holding proof that my sister had made more money from my missing kidney than I made in a year. My name is Alex, I'm 30, and 6 months ago, I let a surgeon cut me open and take out a perfectly healthy organ because I believed my big sister was dying. Everyone called me a hero. Coworkers brought casseroles. My mom cried and said God would bless me for saving Mia's life. Then they all went home, and I went back to work with one kidney, a stack of medical bills, and the unspoken expectation that I would never, ever say no to Mia again. I had told myself I could live with that. I could live with the scar, the fatigue, the weird ache when I lifted heavy boxes. I could live with my mom saying things like, "Be patient with her, Alex, she's been through so much," every time Mia snapped her fingers for help. But as I stared at that transfer, at that impossible amount of money, one thought pushed through the fog of loyalty and pain. If there was this much money moving around my surgery, then there were conversations I hadn't been part of, promises I hadn't heard, deals I definitely hadn't agreed to, and somebody out there who thought my body was just another account to balance. I knew someone had paid for my kidney, and I needed names. To understand how I got here, you have to understand Mia. Growing up, she was the fragile one, even when nothing was actually wrong with her. If she had a headache, Mom let her skip school. If I had a fever, Mom handed me a thermometer and told me to tough it out. When Mia cried, adults rushed in. When I cried, people said, "You're strong, Alex. Be the big brother." Money was the same story. Mia managed to max out a credit card before she turned 21, and Mom called it a learning experience. I watched them sit at the kitchen table, Mia sobbing, Mom promising, "We'll figure it out, baby," while quietly asking me if I could take on more hours at the grocery store. I didn't even have a card. I had a jar labeled rent. The pattern never stopped. Mia borrowed my car and came back with a debt. She forgot to pay back the $400 I lent her to avoid eviction one year. When I reminded her, she laughed and said, "You're so good with money, you'll be fine," as if responsibility was something I'd been gifted for free instead of bled for. A few months before everything exploded, there was this one night that should have told me everything. Mia showed up at my apartment door in tears, shaking a shut-off notice from the power company. "Lex, please," she begged, using the childhood nickname that always softened me. "If they cut it off, I can't work from home. I'll lose my clients. It's all connected." I transferred the money, even though it meant I'd eat ramen for a week. 2 days later, I saw her Instagram story, brunch with bottomless mimosas, tagged at some trendy rooftop bar. When I called her, she brushed it off. "Elena helped, relax. Your transfer just gave me breathing room." I remember hanging up, staring at my own dark, cramped kitchen, and thinking, maybe this is the last time I save her. Then, 3 weeks later, she dropped the word kidney like a bomb in the middle of our mother's living room. I still remember the way Mia rehearsed her sickness. She sat on Mom's couch with a blanket around her shoulders, cheeks pale, too pale, like makeup pale. She held a crumpled stack of hospital papers she wouldn't let go of. When I walked in, both of them turned to me with the same wide, glossy eyes. "Alex," Mia whispered, like she'd been waiting for a cue. "The doctors found something. My kidney function it's bad. Really bad." Mom's hand clamped around mine. "They think she'll need a transplant," she said, voice trembling. "They're starting the workup. They said family is usually the best chance." I'm a lab tech. I'm around real sick people all the time. I know what fear looks like, what confusion sounds like. Mia's fear looked rehearsed, like a script she'd read 3 times. But every time I tried to look at the papers, she folded them tighter, pressing them to her chest. It's a lot of medical jargon, she said. You'd understand it better than me, but I don't want to relive it right now. We went to appointments. We sat in waiting rooms that smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. I had my blood drawn so many times I lost track. The nephrologist, Dr. Chun, explained GFR and matching and risk factors. You're young and healthy, she told me. If you pass the evaluation, donating is generally safe. But it is major surgery. You don't have to do this. I looked at Mia, who was twisting a tissue between her fingers like it was the only thing holding her together. Mom squeezed my arm. You're her only hope, Alex, she said softly. You know I'd do it if I could. I wanted to ask why her labs seemed to bounce up and down instead of steadily tanking. I wanted to ask why everything suddenly felt rushed, why we were scheduling things faster than the transplant nurse said was typical. But every question died when Mia sniffled and whispered, I don't want to die, Lex. Please. So when Dr. Chen looked at me over her glasses and said, You understand the risks? I nodded, signed the forms, and joked weakly. Guess I didn't need 2 kidneys anyway. Somewhere in that stack of signatures and consent forms, something else slipped by, something that would cost me way more than an organ. The week before surgery felt like countdown to execution, except I was both the volunteer and the condemned. Pre-op testing, anesthesia consults, a social worker asking if I felt pressured. I told her no, because admitting pressure felt like betraying Mia, and betraying Mia had become the family's worst sin. Are you sure you want to do this, Alex? The social worker asked, pen hovering over her checklist. Mia was sitting beside me, eyes rimmed in red, squeezing my hand so hard it hurt. You don't have to sugarcoat it, she said. If you don't want to, just say it. I'll figure something out. Mom glared at me over Mia's head, silent but heavy with expectation. I'm sure, I said, the lie solidifying into something permanent as soon as it left my mouth. Little things were off, though. The night before surgery, I stopped by Mia's condo to drop off some of her things. Her place smelled like takeout and expensive candles, not like sick person antiseptic. She was pacing, phone pressed to her ear. I told you, we're doing it tomorrow. She hissed into the phone before spotting me. I'll call you back. She hung up so fast the screen didn't even dim. Who was that? I asked. Work, she said too quickly. They keep trying to get me to send files before I'm admitted. People are so selfish, right? She laughed, brittle. Come on, help me pick a comfy hoodie for the hospital. If I'm going to lose an organ, I at least want good selfies. At the hospital, another thing snagged my attention. A nurse tried to hand me a packet of insurance and billing information, but Mia swooped in, plucking it from her hand. That's for the primary patient, she said. He doesn't need to worry about that. I actually do, I said, reaching out. I'm the donor. Donors get bills too. She folded the packet shut. We'll go through it later. Focus on not freaking out, okay? The nurse hesitated, then smiled tiredly at me. We'll have copies available, she murmured, but somehow I never saw them again. They shaved my abdomen. They marked spots with a purple pen. Mom kissed my forehead and whispered prayers. Mia bent over me, perfume sharp and expensive, and said, You're saving my life, Alex. I'll never forget this. Later, when the anesthesiologist slid the mask over my face, his voice was gentle. Deep breaths. Think of somewhere peaceful. All I could think about was that phone call, that packet of papers, and how Mia's I'll never forget this sounded more like a promise than a thank you. Coming out of anesthesia felt like drowning in glue. Voices floated over me, distorted, words colliding into nonsense. My throat burned from the breathing tube. My abdomen felt like someone had parked a car on it, and every breath came with a pulling ache along the new jagged line across my stomach. Alex, can you hear me? A nurse's face swam into focus. Squeeze my hand if you can. I squeezed. Somewhere nearby, I heard Mom crying and Mia's higher-pitched voice. Is he okay? Please, tell me he's okay. Later, in my room, Mia perched on the visitor chair, scrolling her phone while I tried to sit up. Pain stabbed my side and I sucked in air. Careful, the nurse said, adjusting the bed. Remember, no lifting, no twisting. Listen to your body. Mia looked up. How bad is it? She asked me. Like I got mugged by a lawnmower. I croaked, trying to joke. She huffed a laugh, but her eyes slid back to her screen. You'll bounce back. You always do. When Dr. Chen came in to check my incision, I asked, "How's Mia?" "She's in recovery," Dr. Chen said. "Surgery went well. We'll be monitoring her levels closely. For now, focus on you." Except nobody else seemed focused on me. Visitors came in waves. Mom, a couple of Mia's friends, even our cousin. Every conversation pivoted back to my sister. "Mia's color looks better already," Mom gushed. "It's a miracle." "You're amazing, man," our cousin said, clapping my shoulder a little too hard. "Giving up a kidney like it's nothing." It wasn't nothing. Getting out of bed took 3 people. Going to the bathroom required swallowing my pride and asking for help. Every cough felt like my stitches would explode. Meanwhile, I overheard a nurse reminding Mia about her medication schedule and diet, the long list of things transplant patients had to avoid. 2 days later, I watched through my half-open door as Mia shuffled down the hall, for pole in tow, laughing with a visitor. She moved slower than normal, sure, but there was an ease in her posture I didn't expect this soon. When she caught me watching, she flashed a bright smile. "Hey, one kidney wonder," she called. "The nurses say I'm recovering like a rock star." I forced a smile back, ignoring the way my own steps still made my vision flicker. Somewhere between my own pain and Mia's too quick brightness, a tiny seed of unease settled in my chest. I just didn't know that seed was already growing into something poisonous. Recovery at home was nothing like the cheerful pamphlets. My apartment stairs became a mountain. The first time I tried to carry groceries up, I had to sit halfway, gripping the railing while my heart pounded and sweat soaked through my shirt. Sleeping was a negotiation between pain and gravity. My scar pulled every time I rolled over. Meanwhile, life didn't stop. My sick days ran out faster than my energy returned. The hospital bills started arriving, thick envelopes stamped with red, amount due boxes that made my stomach clench. Insurance covered a lot, but not everything, and I learned real quick that donor care had limits. Mia, according to Mom, was thriving. She texted me selfies from her balcony, face glowing, captioned, "Got my life back thanks to you." In each one, she balanced a latte or glass of wine I was pretty sure she wasn't supposed to be drinking yet. One afternoon, about 2 months post-op, I was sorting mail when I noticed an explanation of benefits statement from the hospital. It listed charges for my surgery, labs, anesthesia. But under patient responsibility, for one line item, there was a note, offset by third-party payment. I frowned. Third-party? I hadn't started any GoFundMe, and Mom definitely couldn't afford surprise generosity. At my follow-up appointment, I asked the transplant nurse about it. "Is that normal?" I asked, showing her the statement. She pursed her lips. "Sometimes there are grants, assistance programs. It depends. Did you or your sister apply for anything like that?" "No," I said slowly. "Not that I know of." She glanced at the clock. "I'd call billing if you have questions. They handle the financial side." When I told Jordan about it over takeout that night, he stopped mid-bite. "Dude, that's weird," he said. "You sure Mia didn't do something? She's always hustling." I bristled. She wouldn't mess with something like this. It's her health. He raised an eyebrow. "You say that like she hasn't lied about serious stuff before." I opened my mouth to argue, but the image of that shut-off notice, followed by rooftop mimosas, flashed in my head. I closed it again. "Just ask more questions," Jordan said. "You gave her a kidney. The least everyone can do is give you straight answers." I told him I would, but the next time Mia called, she sounded so happy, so alive, that I shoved my unease back down and pretended everything was fine. The thing about ignoring your gut is it doesn't actually shut up. It just finds new ways to get your attention. For me, it started with insomnia and ended with a phone pressed to my ear while the hospital's hold music looped for the 3rd time. "Billing department," a tired voice finally answered. "This is Carla. How can I help you?" "Hi," I said, reading off my account number. "I'm a living kidney donor." I got an explanation of benefits saying part of my bill was paid by a third party. I wanted to understand what that means. There was typing on the other end. "Okay, I see your record. Yes, there's an adjustment here. It looks like an external payer covered a portion of the transplant-related costs." "Who?" I asked. "Like a charity?" Silence. More typing. "It's coded as a private payer," she said cautiously. "I don't have access to their internal details, just a reference ID. Can you tell me the name connected to that ID?" I pushed. "I'm sorry," Carla said. That information isn't visible on my end. You might want to talk to the transplant coordinator. After we hung up, I logged into my patient portal and clicked through every document I could find. Discharge summaries, consent forms, a scan page I didn't remember seeing before, with lines about financial responsibility and acknowledgement of potential third-party contributions. Had I just signed everything they put in front of me? Was there a point where someone mentioned this and I'd been too scared and drugged to notice? When I met Jordan for coffee, he listened without interrupting, then leaned back. So there's mystery money paying off parts of your surgery, and your sister's bills are mysteriously light too. And we're just chill with that? Mia said she got some grant. I lied automatically, then winced as the words left my mouth. Sorry, that's what I assumed she'd say. Dude. He lowered his voice. You need to stop treating your suspicions like they're betrayal. If she's clean, asking questions won't hurt her. If she's not. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook, writing down every weird detail since this started. The rushed timeline, the hidden paperwork, the mysterious phone call, the third-party payment. By the time I capped my pen, my hand was shaking. The page looked less like a medical story and more like the first act of a scam. The money trail started with something stupid, Mia's Instagram again. I was at Mom's, helping fix a leaky faucet, when Mom waved her phone with a proud smile. Look, she said. Mia finally got a reliable car. I've been so worried about her old one breaking down. On the screen was Mia, leaning against a shiny silver SUV, keys in hand, captioned, New kidney, new ride, new life. Balloons in the background, a dealership logo barely cropped out. She said she got a great deal, Mom continued. 0% financing for the first year or something. Isn't that wonderful? Mia's credit score was a horror story. She couldn't get approved for a library card without a cosigner, let alone a brand new SUV. My stomach tightened. Did she say how she qualified? I asked casually. Mom's smile faltered. Alex, don't start. She's been through enough. Maybe the universe is finally cutting her a break. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I zoomed in on the photo until the dealership name was clear. A quick search pulled up their site, a phone number. My hands felt sweaty as I dialed, pretending I was just some guy curious about financing. Within a few questions, I learned two things. The SUV had been purchased outright, no financing, and the buyer of record wasn't Mia. It was a small LLC I'd never heard of. I hung up, heart pounding. Who buys a car cash through an LLC for someone drowning in debt? I dug deeper. Public records, social media, old emails Mia had forwarded when she wanted me to explain the boring parts. A name kept popping up alongside hers. R. Klein Consulting. The same name, I realized with a jolt, that was listed on her bank statement as the source of that $48,000 consulting fee. Consulting for what? Jordan asked when I showed him screenshots. That's what I'm going to find out, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. For the first time since the surgery, my pain didn't scare me as much as the numbers did. The more I followed them, the more it felt like they were leading straight back to my operating room. By then, my gut had upgraded from whispering to screaming. I needed someone who knew the law, not just hospital policy. That's how I ended up in a quiet office with framed diplomas on the wall, sitting across from a woman in a navy suit who introduced herself as Harper. So, she said, after I finished my rambling explanation, you're a living kidney donor. Your sister's the recipient. You've discovered a private company paying related medical bills and large sums of money suddenly showing up in her account. And nobody's been transparent with you about why. Yeah, I said, picking at a loose thread on my sleeve. I know it sounds paranoid. Organ selling is illegal, right? Like, absolutely illegal. Very illegal, Harper said. In the U.S., you can't legally buy or sell organs. Donors can't be compensated. Hospitals have strict protocols to prevent that. But money has a way of sneaking in through side doors if people are determined enough. Side doors? I echoed. Consulting fees. Travel stipends. Payments to shell companies that then gift money to a recipient, who then gifts something else to someone else. It's complicated on purpose. I swallowed hard. If Mia took money in exchange for my kidney, what happens? To her? To me? Harper folded her hands. You'd likely be treated as a victim, especially if you had no idea. She could be looking at fraud, possibly charges related to organ trafficking, depending on who else is involved. The hospital could be in hot water if protocols were bypassed. It gets messy fast. I thought of Mom, of her already fragile nerves. My mother would be destroyed. She's being protected from the truth right now, Harper said gently. But that doesn't mean she's safe. If this blows up without your input, you lose any control over the narrative. She slid a legal pad toward me. Start listing everything you have, statements, screenshots, dates. And think about this. What do you actually want? Justice? An apology? Distance? Sometimes the law can't give all of that, but it can give leverage. I walked out of Harper's office with my head spinning and a folder heavy with possibilities. On the sidewalk, my phone buzzed with a text from Mia, a selfie at some trendy restaurant, martini in hand, captioned, "Celebrating my health. You should come out more, Lex." For the first time in my life, I looked at my sister's smile and wondered what else she'd celebrate at my expense. If I'd gone with my first impulse, I would have stormed into Mia's condo and demanded answers right then. Instead, I made the dumbest choice possible. I tried to handle it at a family dinner. Mom insisted on hosting. "Just the three of us," she said. "It's been too long. I'll make lasagna. Comfort food." When I arrived, Mia was already there, leaning against the counter, swirling a glass of red wine. "Look who finally decided to join the living," she said. "How's the scar? Still milking it?" "Still attached to my body," I said. "So good." We made small talk through salad. Mom fussed over us both, asking if I was sleeping and if Mia was taking her meds. Mia rolled her eyes. "Mom, I'm fine," she said. "My labs are great. Ask Dr. Chun." I set my fork down. My heart thudded, but I'd rehearsed this with Jordan and Harper's voice in my head. Calm. Specific. No accusations you can't back up. "I did talk to someone," I said. "The hospital billing office. And a lawyer." The room went still. Mia's smile sharpened. "A lawyer? For what?" "For the part of my bill covered by a private payer. And for the $48,000 you got from R. Klein Consulting, 3 weeks after our surgery." Mom gasped. "Alex, what are you talking about?" Mia laughed, but it sounded forced. "You went through my bank statements? Seriously? That's a violation, dude." "So is taking money for an organ," I said quietly. "If that's what you did." Her chair scraped back. "You think I sold your kidney?" she shouted. "You think I would do that to you? Did you?" I asked. Tears instantly filled her eyes. It would have fooled anyone who didn't grow up watching her weaponize them. "I can't believe this," she sobbed. "I almost died, and you're turning it into some crime show drama." "Alex, apologize," Mom said, voice shaking. "You're upsetting her." I looked between them, the professional victim and the professional enabler, and felt something crack inside me. "I'm not apologizing for asking where the money came from," I said. "If you've got nothing to hide, just explain it." Mia's tears stopped like someone flipped a switch. Her face hardened. "You want an explanation?" she hissed. "Fine. But when this blows back on you, don't say I didn't warn you." The dinner ended with slammed doors and Mom sobbing into a dish towel while Mia stormed out, shouting that she was done being interrogated. I left too, but not before Mom grabbed my arm. "You're going to drive her away?" she cried. "After everything she's been through." "She's not the only one who went through something," I said, gesturing to my scar. "When do I get to be the one people are worried about?" At home, I called Harper and recapped through clenched teeth. "So now she knows you're suspicious," Harper said. "That changes the timeline. She may start covering tracks." "What do I do?" I asked. "I don't have access to her accounts, her emails." "You have more than you think," Harper said. "Texts, social media posts, anything she's put in writing about money or the surgery, anyone she's bragged to. And you mentioned an LLC and a consulting company. We can subpoena records later, but first we need enough to justify that." Jordan became my unofficial investigator. We went through old group chats where Mia had jokingly referred to me as her spare parts brother. We found a message from before the surgery where she wrote to a friend, "If this works, I'll finally be out of debt. New start, new me." "Debt from what?" Jordan asked. "She ever tell you?" "Bits and pieces," I said. "Credit cards, payday loans, some business investment that went bad." We set up alerts for her LLC's name, for R. Klein Consulting. A week later, a LinkedIn profile pinged, a medical logistics consultant named Richard Klein, with vague descriptions about coordinating high-value procedures across borders. "That's our guy," Harper said when I forwarded it. If he's legit, he'll have nothing to hide. If he's not, he'll panic when he hears your name. The plan we built was simple and terrifying. Arrange a meeting where Mia thought she'd be smoothing things over with a consultant, but instead she'd walk into a room with me, Harper, and a recorder running. We'd give her a chance to explain before involving authorities. To set the bait, I sent Mia a carefully worded text. I overreacted. I'm scared about money and my health. If there's some kind of financial help you got because of the transplant, I want to understand it. Maybe your consultant can explain? She responded in under a minute. Finally, I'll talk to him. Don't make this a big drama, Lex. Within days, Mia sent me a time and place and wrote, he's doing us a favor. Don't screw this up. Standing outside Harper's office the morning of the meeting, I pressed a hand over my scar and wondered if I was about to cut something even deeper open. Harper's conference room looked nothing like the chaos I felt inside. Polished table, carafe of water, a discreet little device in the center already recording. Jordan sat against the wall, officially moral support, unofficially backup witness. Harper reviewed a folder of printed screenshots and statements. You ready? She asked. No, I said honestly. But let's do it. Mia arrived first, heels clicking, sunglasses pushed up on her head. She froze when she saw Harper and Jordan. What is this? She demanded. You said it was just you. I said I wanted things explained. I said, this is my lawyer. That's my friend. Sit down, Mia. Before she could bolt, the door opened again. A man in his 50s stepped in, expensive suit, bland face, the kind of guy who'd disappear in any corporate crowd. Ms. Rivera? He asked, glancing at Mia. I'm Richard Klein. His eyes flicked to me. Then Harper, taking everything in. If he was surprised by the audience, he hit it well. Mr. Klein, Harper said smoothly, standing to shake his hand. Thank you for coming. We've all agreed this conversation will be recorded for accuracy. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Of course, transparency is important in our line of work. Great, Harper said. Why don't you start by explaining that line of work? Specifically, how it relates to a $48,000 payment to Ms. Rivera shortly after her brother's kidney donation. Mia shot to her feet. You tricked me, she snapped. This is an ambush. Mia, sit. Klein said quietly, an edge in his tone. We talked about this. If everything is above board, there's nothing to fear. For a moment, something ugly flashed across her face. The look of someone realizing their co-conspirator cares more about self-preservation than loyalty. She sat, jaw tight. Klein folded his hands. My company consults on international medical arrangements. Wealthy clients who can't get certain procedures in their home countries hire us to coordinate opportunities. Opportunities like my kidney? I asked. You volunteered, he said. Your sister matched. The hospital followed protocol. No one forced you. Did someone pay you for that match? Harper asked. Answer clearly, please. Klein hesitated, then exhaled. There was a facilitation fee, he said, paid by a third party grateful for an expedited process. We arranged for some of that gratitude to ease Ms. Rivera's financial burdens. It was a private gift, not a purchase. So why hide it? I said. Why LLCs and consulting labels? Mia slammed her hand on the table. Because people like you turn everything into a crime, she shouted. I was drowning, Alex. This was a win-win. You saved a life, I got out of debt. Everyone benefited. Except the law, Harper said, and the donor who never agreed to be monetized. For the first time, Mia flinched. You would have said no, she whispered. You always say no when it's about money. That's because I know what things actually cost, I said, including my body. The rest of that meeting blurred into arguments and legal threats. Klein insisted nothing could be tied to him. Harper calmly listed the ways it already could. Mia ricocheted between rage and tears, accusing me of trying to destroy her second chance and dragging strangers into our family business. You dragged them in when you turned my kidney into a paycheck, I said. By the end, Harper had what she needed, recorded admissions, names, timelines. I strongly suggest you both retain separate counsel, she told Mia and Klein. Because this isn't going away. The fallout came in waves. Harper notified the hospital's legal department and a federal tip line. An internal review launched. Dr. Chin called me personally, her voice tight. I am so sorry, Alex, she said. We follow strict protocols. If someone found a way around them, I know you didn't cut me open for a bribe, I said. But someone used your system. There were emails, interviews, questions about every appointment. Mia screamed at me over the phone. They're suspending my follow-ups until they review my case, she sobbed. Do you get it? You might have ruined my medical care. You did that when you lied, I said, though guilt twisted in my gut anyway. Mom took longer to accept the truth. At first, she refused to listen. You're exaggerating, she said. Mia would never risk jail. She's not a criminal. She is if she sold access to my body, I replied. There's recordings, Mom. It's not just my word. When Harper finally sat down with Mom, playing her a carefully edited clip of the meeting, something in my mother's face crumpled. Majida, she whispered to no one, tears spilling. What did you do? Extended family picked sides. Some called to say they were proud of me for speaking up. Others sent nasty messages about sending your own sister to prison. I started keeping my phone on silent. My body didn't care about any of it. It still ached when I worked too many shifts. My lab job kept me on my feet, and my manager's patience had limits. We value what you did, he said, when I asked for reduced hours again. But we also have a business to run. There were nights I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd pulled the pin on a grenade I couldn't control. The investigations moved at the speed of bureaucracy, but my healing had to happen in real time. After one particularly bad day, Mom crying, Mia leaving me a voicemail full of curses, I walked into a therapist's office and admitted I needed help. I feel stupid, I told Dr. Patel. Like I handed someone a loaded gun and then got surprised when they fired it. You gave your sister a kidney, she said. You didn't give her permission to exploit you. Those are different actions. So why do I feel guilty? I asked, like I snitched. Because your family trained you to prioritize peace over truth, she replied. You broke that pattern. That's painful, but it's also progress. Therapy didn't fix everything, but it gave me language. Words like boundaries and informed consent and emotional labor started showing up in my head when Mia texted. At first, I answered every message out of habit. Then I started letting some sit unread. Eventually, after one last raging voicemail where she screamed, "You owe me your silence after what I went through," I blocked her number. I wrote her a letter instead, printed, signed, mailed. In it, I said, I hope you get whatever help you need. I will cooperate with any legal process, but I will not speak to you directly again unless it's through attorneys or a mediator. My body and my peace are not bargaining chips. Mom struggled. She begged me to reconsider. You can't cut off your own sister, she said. Blood is blood. I already cut something out for her, I said gently. That was my limit. Jordan dragged me to a support group for living donors. I listened to people talk about risks, regrets, complicated gratitude. When it was my turn, I said, I thought the worst thing that could happen was my sister rejecting the organ. I never imagined she'd reject the idea that it was a gift, not a transaction. Heads nodded. Later, a woman patted my shoulder. You're allowed to protect what's left of you, she said. Slowly, I built routines that weren't about Mia. Early morning walks. Meal prepping so I didn't skip food on double shifts. Saying no without a 3-paragraph apology. For the first time in years, my life started belonging mostly to me. When the formal letters finally came, one from the hospital, one from a federal agency, they didn't read like the dramatic justice I'd imagined on my worst nights. There were phrases like ongoing investigation, compliance failures, potential criminal charges. Names were redacted. The process was opaque. But tucked inside was one clear sentence. You are not considered a subject of this investigation, but a cooperating witness. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at that line until the words blurred. Jordan read over my shoulder. That's as close to you're not the bad guy as the government gets, he said. Mia's fate is still writing itself. Last I heard through a cousin, she'd hired her own lawyer and moved out of state for a while. Mom visits her sometimes, but has stopped trying to guilt me into coming along. I don't know who she is anymore, Mom said quietly one afternoon, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. But I know what she did to you was wrong. We're both learning new languages, hers for accountability, mine for letting go without pretending it didn't happen. Some evenings, I lift my shirt in the bathroom mirror and look at the scar. It's an ugly, uneven thing, puckered at one end where the stitches healed rough. For a long time, all I saw was betrayal carved into skin. Now, bit by bit, I'm trying to see something else too. Proof that I am capable of staggering generosity, even if someone else twisted it. I still believe in donating organs. I still believe there are people who deserve that kind of second chance. But if you're listening to this wondering what you do for family, here's my advice. Love doesn't mean surrendering your right to information. If anyone asks you for a piece of your body, they should be willing to put every detail in writing and hand you a copy. These days, my favorite moments are stupidly small. Coffee on my balcony before work, the city humming awake, my one remaining kidney quietly doing its job while I do mine. For the first time in a long time, my life doesn't feel like collateral in someone else's secret deal. It feels like a life I actually get to choose.